One thing that coaches always talk about is having their teams or being nervous about their teams playing down to an opponent's level. I mean, are there any approaches that I can take in the huddle or even preparing during the course of the week to really make sure that our team's playing at a very high level?
Playing down to opponent's level is kind of an interesting thing, and what we found is there's not really anything that fits all athletes. I mean, there are some athletes that will just never play down to the competition level. They just don't, while other players are actually pretty likely to. So one of the first things we try and do is figure out who's more likely to do that and why. Interestingly enough, as we start looking at individual athletes and things that motivate them, athletes that have a higher need for power are actually one of the groups that are more vulnerable to playing down to the competition. And one of the reasons for that is they're so focused on goals related to achievement. They need that challenge. They need to go up against the best competition. And so when they go against somebody that they feel is inferior, they just don't see it as a real challenge, and that's when you start to get that letdown. So we do some work proactively on that, and what we have to do is get them focused not on just the idea of winning, because in their mind that's going to be too easy and not a real challenge. So we try and develop maybe some team goals. So if it's a basketball team, it's like, okay, we're going to score at least 100 points on this, and we're going to do this. We're going to keep turnovers under 15, and we're going to set some goals that says our success is defined by something other than winning. For individual athletes that are really into that, we might have to help them set some individual goals to be able to say, what's going to keep you going when the score is lopsided, so you don't let them make that big run and catch up. What's going to keep you going? So what is it about your own performance that we're going to focus on? So we really try and define success differently. So that's one group of people in terms of how they can vulnerable to be playing down to the competition. For each athlete, you really kind of got to figure out what is it. If it's a consistent problem, you need to figure out what it is. And if it's a consistent problem with a team, then you start looking at the individual athletes and saying, okay, what is happening with this? What's happening with the team leaders? Is there certain personality types? So it takes a fair amount of work to be able to figure some of these things out. But if you do, then you can kind of proactively deal with those. And then you build that into the team, you build it into the team leaders, that the coaches are aware of it, and then you can kind of prepare, because you know what opponents are coming, and you know whether this is competition that's going to really get people fired up or whether it's one that you're going to have to watch out for.